Regular meeting of the Tangipahoa Parish Rural Fire Protection District Number 2 for October the 28th, 2019 will come to order. Secretary, call roll, please.
Mr. Forrest. Present. Mr. Bailey. Mr. Joseph. Present. Mr. Bruno.
Here.
Mr. Ritchell. Here. Mr. Mayhew. Here. Mr. Wells.
Here.
Mr. Vial.
Here.
Mr. Levine. Mr. Cortez.
Here.
All right. Public input. Anyone wishing to address any agenda items? Good. Adoption of minutes dated September the 23rd, 2019. Motion by Mr. Joseph. Second by Mr. Forrest. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Hammond Fire Matters.
We do have a
Ratification of a part-time employee. Huh?
public hearing.
No raise.
Oh, we got a public hearing. I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. Never had a public hearing before.
Not often.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Tangipahoa Parish Rural Fire Protection District Number 2 Board of Commissioners on Monday, November the 25th, 2019, immediately following the regular meeting of the Tangipahoa Parish Council at Tangipahoa Parish Government Building, 206 East Mulberry Street, Amite, Louisiana. Contact 985-748-3211 on the following: adoption of amended operating budget for the year ending December 31st, 2019. And number 2, adoption of proposed operating budget for year ending December 31st, 2020. We have our CPA here with us today, and we have a whole bunch of our CPAs here with us today. And they will shortly be, well, I guess, Dennis, come on up and let's get it.
You want to move that up?
Yeah, we're going to move it up. I'm sure they want to go.
While they coming, I would just like to ask the question why we didn't get a copy of it.
Well,
Was I the only one that didn't?
No, nobody got it. He's got them tonight.
But it would be a good idea if we could get a copy of it, when you place it on this.
He didn't want to do it.
This is an introduction, right? Introduction?
He's going to tell you what.
An
Good
introduction.
evening, everybody. Mr. Wells, the reason I didn't send it out ahead of time is because until the fire minister introduces it, it really is not for public.
I got it.
Good. Good evening, everybody. It's been a little while since I've been here before you. Thank you very much. Can't help but mention Megan's passing out some materials we're going to talk briefly about today. Within the last couple of months, Megan, as you know, passed the CPA exam. She's a licensed CPA.
Hey!
Very proud of her.
Did you give her a raise?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good. That's more important than passing the test.
And I can't help but mention she's a Metairie girl, and she came up Southeastern and loved it so much she bought a house in Hammond, and she's here to stay. So
Good.
Good.
Collecting taxes now.
Dave really know what
I can be brief. I just want to go through a couple things with you. As you know, state law requires us to adopt our operating budget for next year before the end of the year, and also to adopt the amendment or any amendments to the current year budget. Before we can take this budget up for discussion, we have to have a public hearing, and that's what that notice was about. So Kristen will run an advertisement. We'll have the public hearing at the beginning of next month's meeting. I'll be here, and you can debate the budget. If you want to make changes, that's when we can kind of take on that. I just wanted to show you what's in the package so you know how to use this. The responsibility for the budget preparation rests with the chief administrator, which is Dennis Crocker. And the first couple of pages is a brief budget message to try to tell you a little bit about the major variances in the budget. And I'm going to point some highlights in a minute, but I'd like to call your attention to the first legal page. It has some color-coded columns. The way you want to use this, and I apologize it has a lot of numbers in it, but state law, believe it or not, dictates precisely how your budget presentation has to show up. The first column has to be last year's actual revenues and expenditures. The next column has to be the year-to-date actual. We ran this through September 30th. The next column is my best estimate of what we will take in and spend between now and the end of the year. The first column that's color-coded is in orange, and that's my very best estimate, working with Dennis Crocker, of where we will be on December 31st. It's an estimate of the future, and sometimes that's a little bit dangerous, but that's where we think we'll be. The very next column is the budget for 19. The very next column is the percentage change that our actual revenues and expenditures are coming in at based on our original budget. And the good news is that our revenue's coming in quite a bit more than what our budget anticipated, which means that the money dispersed to the fire departments is going to be quite a bit larger in 2019 than the budget anticipated. The last two columns is what you'll have to take up at the November meeting, so you want to spend some time between now and then looking at it. The yellow column is what I'm proposing for you to consider as the budget amendment, which kind of trues up all the numbers. And then the green column all the way to the right is the proposed budget for 2020. So this kind of gives you everything from 2018 to 2020 and everything in between, and hopefully allows you to make a decision based on what you want to do at the November meeting. The first legal sheet is on the tax account only. The second legal sheet, which has quite a large number of line items, this is on the administrative budget. So you want to spend some time going through that and seeing what we have in there. A couple of highlights I think I'd like to point out is that you'll notice that total revenues for 2019 are up about $156,000 over what the budget had anticipated. All of that going straight to the fire department, so that's a good thing. The tax collections for 2020 are expected to increase an additional $165,000, all of which goes to the fire departments. The administrative budget for 2020 is projected to increase by $10,000 because we've had the same administrative budget now for I think 3 years, and operating costs are putting us in a position where we have to ask for a little bit more. But even with that slight increase, administrative costs in total represent roughly 4% of the overall budgeted expenditures for the fire district. So those are a few highlights. In your package, Mr. President, I have 2 resolutions that are in proposed form. I think what you want to do tonight is introduce those resolutions so you can take them up at the November meeting. One resolution is to amend the 2019 budget, and the second resolution is to adopt the 2020, and then y'all can take them up in November and take action on them.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? The good news in this whole thing is we're going to probably end the year with $150,000 more than what we anticipated, and it looks like we may be $150,000 more for next year, which comes to about a $300,000 increase for the fire departments to split in just 1 year's time. So I think that's a good thing, and that means that our property values are kicking in from that lull we had after the storm. So I know it's not a great amount, but it is something. It's not a decrease, and that's what we always look forward to. I want to thank Dennis and his staff because we went over the budget, we kept everything as close as it was last year. There is hardly any changes if you'll look. The only thing we did do, we increased the administrative budget by 10,000, I'm sorry, because now we have the Swiftwater program, and we incurred a little debt in that we need to make sure we'll be able to cover. And according to what we had this weekend, it's a good chance we're probably going to use it.
And Mr. President, if I could just add my sentiments is that most of what we're adding for that extra $10,000 is in the area of training of the firefighters and equipping them with the needed materials and supplies for our Swiftwater program and our other rescue programs. So I think there's a direct, tangible benefit by more certifications we have, the more continuing training that's required, and this is what part of that increase is for.
Now, so before anybody gets all out of whack, these will go out tonight. Once we introduce them, these will go out tonight to all of the fire chiefs, and you will have them until the public hearing on November 25th.
First thing in the morning, I'll send an email to all the fire chiefs with their copy of exactly what you're looking at here, and then they can contact them. And anybody, any of the council members, Fireboard members, any of the fire chiefs can call my office, email my office. If you have a question about a particular line item and you want some further explanation on it, just give me a call.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, we need a motion to introduce the amended operating budget for the year ending December 31st, 2019.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Wells. Roll call.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgestall? Yes. Mr. Mayhew? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Okay, motion passes. Second will be to introduce the proposed operating budget for the year ending December 31st, 2020. Motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Wells. Roll call.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgestall? Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank all of y'all for all that y'all do for us. Dennis, thank you for working closely with Dennis and getting this prepared. Okay, we're going to go back to the Hammond Fire Matters, the ratification of a part-time position.
It's one part-time position at $10 per hour.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Vial, second by Mr. Mayhew. Roll call.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgestall? Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Motion passes. Laranja Fire Matters, discussion and approval of renewal of lease for property on East Cooper Road for a storage shed. Let me give y'all a little background on this. When I came here a long time ago, this
Mighty.
a long time ago,
Mighty.
Just long, it wasn't that long.
we were able to sign a lease with the school board for a piece of property in the Sweetwater area under Laranja's cover area for 100 years for a fire station. Laranja built a fire station. It's a one-base fire station. They need a little more room, and they're going to put up a little portable cover so that they can store another truck there, because the little building that's there will not handle it. So they've already got prices on the building. I think Dennis and Justin have been working on that. I want to get with Melissa Stilley, and we can't find a copy of the lease. But I know we ain't made the 100 years. I hadn't quite been here that long. But
Mighty. Mighty.
But I want to get with Melissa and see if they would be okay with it, to kind of upgrade that lease, so that now that we're going to put this other building there. So this is not going to affect anything. The lease is still in operation. I really just need to get one that we can put our hands on. So if it's okay, they're going to proceed. Building has been already ordered. It falls under less money than they need to bid it. And I'm going to try to get with Miss Stilley at the school board and see if she can bring it to her board to see if we can get it redone. If it's a problem, we're just going to operate under the lease that we have.
There's no question about the.
Oh, no, absolutely, no.
They got plenty enough room.
It's actually a 5-acre tract of land, but it's split by one of our parish roads, but we still have enough on that side to put the building without any problem. Okay? So we really don't need any action on that. Okay, Wilmer Fire Matters.
The same thing, it's
Ratification of a part-time position.
the same thing, one position to be ratified, $10 per hour, part-time.
Motion by Mr. Forrest,
Second.
second by Mr. Wells. Roll call.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgestall?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez? Mr. Forrest?
Okay, motion passes. Eighth Ward Fire Matters, ratification of a full-time position.
What we're doing on this one, the chief had submitted some paperwork. He's moving a part-time position to be a full-time position at $10.71 per hour.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Vial,
Second.
second by Mr. Mayhew. Roll call.
Mr. Ridgestall?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes. Okay, administrator's report. The first item I actually put on there, so the other two have been taken care of. Dennis, you got a report you want to make?
It's just,
Then we'll take that up.
We were, we talked about the rescue team, and they were put on notice for that incident in New Orleans. So just so y'all do know that this is, it's working very well. It's getting the recognition. We were the closest USAR team to them. Now, New Orleans has enough people that they can suffice and supply their own people, but they did call us and put us on alert in case they were needed. So that's basically all I needed to bring y'all aware of.
All right, number 5 is discussion of special events. I put this on here because, unfortunately, we're not in 1980 or 1970 anymore, and, lawsuits are pretty prevalent. But we really going to have to look at coming up with some kind of policy on the use of parish vehicles for special events, especially when it's riding people other than our firemen on it. I know all of y'all know there was an incident in Ponchatoula about a week or two ago. The gentleman that fell off the truck was a fireman, but he fell backwards onto the cement, and he's now in a pretty bad way, George Pelche. But he's paralyzed from...
He's also a parish employee.
Yes. So...
A life member for that department.
Who was it having a parade?
Well, it was an open house for the fire department.
They take the kids, that weekend, they take kids riding around.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do, we're going to have to start looking at when they have jumpies on the fire station grounds and water slides and all of this kind of stuff. Today, people sue for anything. We've got an insurance company that thankfully everything that we've been able to turn into with our trucks and stuff like that, they've paid. But something like this, we're not going to be, you're going to be in a position at some point, they're just not going to do this. So, and I know it's not going to be something that they're going to like, the fire departments are going to like, but these properties and these vehicles belong to the public. And the public's actually, when these lawsuits are filed, now we got a $25,000 deductible on every claim. So, we have to be very careful because that money is not, we don't have it in the budget. I mean, that's got to be pulled from every department if we have to, retain a lawyer. So what I'm asking is if everybody's in agreement, I'd like to get Dennis to look around and see if any other departments anywhere else has some kind of policy on that. And come back to us, and I'm going to form a committee, and I'd like to have a committee to look at whatever Dennis comes up with, and the committee come back to us and look at maybe us passing something on this. Because I'm telling y'all, all we have to do is have something, a water slide at a fire station, and some child goes down it and gets hurt really bad, and we're going to be in a fix. So I know it's 2019. In 1970, you could do those things. You can't do them anymore. And I think we really need to look at this real close, and we need to look at who's going to be able to be on these vehicles, especially when they're going down the road, because we just can't afford this to keep happening.
Possibly sign of waivers or something,
Well, I don't even know,
That ain't gonna work?
I don't know if it will or not. I don't know how much weight it has to it,
Generally, most waivers are good for people's minds, but they often don't work in the court system because when people sign waivers, it's often interpreted they didn't fully understand the sheer magnitude of what could happen to them, and that if you're talking about somebody that's paralyzed, the waiver may hold up really well if a guy breaks his arm, and it may not hold up very well at all if somebody is really seriously injured.
And look, I want to make it very clear, the gentleman that is hurt, we haven't had anything about a lawsuit, or I don't want that to be construed as that what I'm saying. Yeah. But I think it's something that has come to our attention now, and I don't think we need to stick our head in the sand and not look at it. Louis?
This might be a question for Dennis. Does the insurance company or the carrier stipulate what can and
Yeah, some of the things they do say that, you're putting the fire district at a liability if someone was to get hurt doing a special event, whether or not that the insurance will decide whether or not they will cover it or not. But they do say that you're actually putting the fire district at, and opening them up for liability.
And something
I
else.
think a rule of thumb, if you have any doubt, don't do it.
They will.
I have a question. Got a lot of chiefs here tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do y'all have any idea what other parishes do with this kind of thing?
As far as I know, last conversation I've had with the EFIS, they cover the fees and anybody who will be covering work.
Firemen will, yes, the firemen will.
The liability policy should cover.
It's up to whatever your maximum is.
Shouldn't the liability policy cover?
Well,
Yeah,
it probably will, but
I can call a few days,
No.
maybe right now if you want me to.
no, we'll let Dennis check into it, but I was just
Well,
kind of curious.
And look, even if they do, that's not gonna stop a frivolous lawsuit. And if you have a frivolous lawsuit and we gotta go out and hire legal counsel, that's $25,000.
Well, I think
You
they
know?
will provide defense. I hadn't looked at your policy, but I think that standard policies, even with the $25,000 deductible, will provide attorneys to represent the fire district as part and parcel. That's one of the things you're buying with a policy. So you've probably, it's like when you've got a.
But I mean, wouldn't the first 25,000 be up to us?
It could come out of your pocket,
Right.
like if you were, if you're in your car and you have a $10,000 deductible, well, you know, you'll have to meet your deductible before, but they will provide counsel for you. It's just that, remember, when they're offering a settlement, and they say, I'm gonna offer $50,000, remember 25, so that's your money. The other thing that I think is gonna be important, especially for non-firefighters, is very often people use, and I see it universally use, fire trucks often to haul children and other people during parades. But they're really not, you know, I mean, they're really not constructed to carry people. They're constructed to carry firemen and fire equipment. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. I very seldom hear of anybody getting hurt. But you need to be so very careful, because that isn't a school bus that you're putting kids on, or putting civilians on. That's a fire truck, and it may not be well equipped to carry people at any kind of high rate of speed, much over a crawl. You know.
We should have a medical policy also on that vehicle, usually like even an automobile.
And you may, you know, you noted in your card policy, you have that, you have a med pay. Understand that when people are injured a little bit, that mostly that is probably not the end of the world. If somebody is so severely injured that they can no longer work, they cannot function in society again, that's just a game changer.
That's something we definitely.
So we'll
Dave.
proceed with the plan, Mr. Chairman. We're gonna have Dennis get
Well,
that.
David, did
I
you
will
have a
look
question?
into,
No, my question was answered, but I just think Dennis, go ahead and check into it, yeah.
I will look and
And you
see
may
if I
want
can
to check with the
find,
policy, find out whether the policy, it does have med pay in it. It might well. Standard automobile policies do. I don't know about fire truck policies. And the other issue is if they're going to provide a defense counsel, because oftentimes the cost of defense is much more money than the actual money that's paid out. Understand that.
Right.
You know,
Well, they do, because in the case that we had quite a while back, they furnished legal counsel. Okay, if nobody has a problem with it,
Let's check
I'm
in.
going to ask Dennis to do some research and see if we have anything by any other fire departments in the area. And Kristen, if you'll put it back on the agenda, I will appoint a committee at the next meeting to look into it and see what we're going to do.
I'll just say one other thing. Yeah, the money aspect is one thing, but do we really want to put anybody in harm's way?
well, that's
Okay, so-
something to think about.
Yeah, we need to think about that.
Look at the policies too, and see what the limits of liability are.
Well, we got,
Think about
if
it.
y'all remember, we increased them. We went from 1 million to 10 million.
Right.
So thank God, you know, we did that. But, you know, I think
We don't want to risk nothing.
yeah, I just think it's, you know, like David said, I think the loss of life or limb or somebody getting hurt is more important than all the stuff that's
Having a
combined.
policy protecting us.
Okay, Any other fire matters?
None.
If not, I'll have an adjourn. Mr. Wells?
Somebody made a whack comment, but I make a motion that we'll adjourn this meeting.
Motion by Mr. Wells to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cortez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?